Welcome to Previously on X-Men, the podcast that looks at X-Men comics, movies, shows, characters, and more. I'm Hilary, and today I have a very special guest because if you're listening right when this is released, you will know that it is almost
Halloween. And so who could we possibly get?
who would be better than the fabulous Queen of Halloween, Sally Jacoby Murphy. Say hello to your fans.
Hello, my fans. Wow.
How are you this Halloween season, Sally?
I'm pretty good. I was just saying that I'm working a spooky haunted house situation this week, which is a lot of fun, but the queen is a little bit tired, I'll tell you that.
You got to delegate that to your subjects.
It's true, but you got to get involved a little bit, right? I mean, tis the season, right?
Put your face out there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for making time in your very busy schedule to come here and talk to me about Generation X number 41,
Woohoo.
which is called Chainsaw Massacre.
This was released on June 10th, 1998. The cover date is August 1998. So not October, but we're in there.
There's a quote on the cover that says, "Scream for your life, Jubilee," and it's got a nice flash of Jubilee on the cover. This was illustrated by Alejandro Garza. He also illustrated several issues of Deadpool. It was written by Larry Hama, known for long runs of Wolverine and G.I. Joe.
So this issue was collected in Generation X Epic Collection Pride and Penance. I figured, Sally, this is kind of a perfect blend, this particular issue, because there's a lot of slasher movie stuff in here, almost more than mutant stuff. So I figured I'll talk about stuff that I know, and you can throw in all the stuff that you are an expert in with the scary movies. So Generation X it's like one of these spin-offs of the main X-Men title, where we have a younger group of mutants who are in their own team, not directly connected to the X-Men.
Generation X is a team that was kind of put together by Emma Frost and Banshee. You've got Jubilee, who is from the X-Men, like she is well established by this point. Then we have Monet, who goes by M. We have Husk, we have Penance, Skin, Sink, and Chamber. Most of these are introduced pretty soon before the Generation X title comes in. They're all sort of involved in fighting the Phalanx, which we've talked about before. So now when we get into the issue, Banshee and Emma Frost, who are the kind of leaders, are gone. And so now we just have teens and young adults hanging around in the mansion.
So Skin gets back with some movies.
Everybody is very disappointed that they're not girl movies. They're slasher movies. Sally, would you like to define a girl movie for me, Sally?
I mean, I think Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a great girl movie. The girl survives. Final girl.
I knew. So in the issue, Skin basically just forces his will, I guess, on the group. They're all disappointed that they're slasher movies. So it's just a fun little setup with all of the guys hanging around. They're making snacks, and Monet can't do anything to help because her nails are drying, and it's very important. So they start to settle in, and we get an actual picture, like a live, seems to be from the real movie, like a shot of Jason. Yeah. There's a hockey mask and an axe. Did you recognize this?
Yes, I did, Hilary.
This image? All right. Well, good. Listen, I've watched some horror movies, but I think slasher movies are a huge hole for me because I have no interest in slasher movies, so I have not seen any of them. I recognized a lot of the characters that pop up in here, but know almost nothing about any of these people.
Yeah, I actually was curious, like, we could talk about this as we go along, but I was actually curious how many of these movies you had seen, so, or if any of them.
Yeah, I feel like none of them. Like there are, I think 3 of the villains that show up that I'm like, I know the name of that person. I know the name of that person. I know, but I don't think I've seen any of them. So yeah, we'll get into that.
So we've got some playful banter, and they're kind of showing that they're growing together as a team and all that stuff. At one point, they realize, Jubilee is too young for this kind of stuff, and they really shouldn't. Skin tries to cover her eyes.
But Jubilee's like, I've seen worse than this in real life, and so have all of you. So everybody shut up and let me watch the movie. But then at this point, Sink says, well, listen, this might give you terminal dream syndrome. And I think Monet is like, okay, that's fake. But what he's talking about is when you're dreaming and you die when you're dreaming, then you die in real life. So I think most people have kind of heard of this idea. And then they have a mini little debate about whether this is pseudoscience or whatever. And Skin just puts on the Massachusetts Chainsaw Massacre to watch.
I know, it feels very...
I thought that was a funny state to
There's
choose
something so
instead of
just
Texas.
polar opposite between, like, Massachusetts and Texas in a way that is sort of wonderful.
Yeah. How might it be different?
Yeah.
Let's all imagine.
Uh,
So then basically that's kind of the end of the scene. And then later we have Jubilee waking up alone in the living room. And she's like, oh, I guess I fell asleep. You know, where is everybody? She starts to walk around and she sees this spooky old lady creeping up the stairs. And so she bumps into, I think, Skin. I don't remember who she bumps into, but they're both like, oh, did you see that? What's going on? And they follow the creepy old lady up the stairs. And then we have Husk, who's taking a shower, and the old lady is like creeping up on the shower. And I think she has a knife. You're getting into Psycho moments here. Oh, Psycho. I've seen Psycho. There we go. So Skin and Jubilee are coming into the door and they're like, Husk, you gotta, there's a creepy lady coming. And Husk is like, Skin, you're just trying to get to see me in the shower. And she doesn't pay any attention. And then the spooky old lady attacks and pulls down the
curtain.
curtain. She pulls down the curtain. And oh no! Ah! And she seems to, I think she kills Husk or like attacks her. There's blood. You know, it's a slashy moment. Turns around, it's not Mrs. Bates, it's Bastion. So here we are. Bastion is a villain from Mutantdom. He's basically a human, one of these situations with a human who runs some group that wants to destroy all mutants, that kind of situation. So this is our first
implication
of what's happening with this little kind of mashup. So we have Bastion, who's a mutant guy who has been masquerading, I guess,
as Mrs. Bates.
She's from Alfred Hitchcock's infamous film Psycho. And this is a shot for shot from the movie. So like the scene of what's her name laying on the ground there dead with the drain is like a famous shot from Psycho where they have like the blood. And yeah, I also would think Psycho is sort of debatable whether it's a slasher movie or not, partly because it's such an early film that it's not really like a stalking film in the same way most slasher films are. So I would say it'd be categorized as an early slasher film.
Would you call it a proto slasher film?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I think one could argue that.
Okay, so then at this point, Jubilee has figured out, she seems pretty confident that this is a dream. So we don't have to mourn Husk, and we are all sort of accepting this is a dream. So while she's working all of this out, we get another.
This time we've got Sabretooth as Freddy Krueger. So I don't think Sabretooth really needs much introduction. So Sally, tell us about Freddy Krueger.
So Nightmare on Elm Street, one of Johnny Depp's first roles. And Freddy Krueger is basically a monster that haunts people's dreams. So this is actually, it's kind of like a dream within a dream here.
Yeah, and they don't really touch on that, right?
Not
like
really.
He's just the creepy guy.
Yeah.
They don't really, I feel like there's a couple of things in this issue that feel like that to me, that like it feels like there should be a little bit more, I don't know, parallels happening or something. Like for instance, this being Sabretooth, I was like, okay, so like claws, Freddy Krueger has a claw vibe, so they chose Sabretooth because he has claws. Cool. That's like it. For the rest of them, none of the rest of them seem to have any actual parallels or connections with the villain that they're kind of portraying.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but whatever. So Freddy Krueger takes out Skin. Skin is gone. And then Monet pops in. He takes out Monet.
So Jubilee is running, and then we have Omega Red popping in with a hockey mask from the
Halloween movie?
No.
No.
He's Friday the 13th.
Michael Myers
Yes.
is Halloween. Michael Myers is Halloween. I took a shot.
It wasn't a bad shot. They're, classic slasher movies of the same era. But yes, Friday the 13th.
Isn't there a mask situation with Halloween movies? Doesn't he wear masks?
Yeah, he wears like a plasticky kind of like Halloween mask. It's just like it's a human mask though. Yeah.
Okay, and Jason, what's his deal? He just like slashes people? What's his thing.
Yeah, I mean, his like lore is that he basically died as a child in a spooky lake, and it's at this summer camp. And so these teens are there for the weekend, and he terrorizes them and murders them. And then you find out what actually happened to him back in the day. But I won't spoil it. No spoilers.
And we don't want to spoil it.
Yeah.
All right, well, let me stop here for a second because something that's occurring to me. I always thought that the idea of slasher films was a lot more based in reality. Like, I thought that it was like crazy guy chases after you with a knife, but now Jason is a ghost situation.
Well, Hilary, I can't answer that question without giving away
You-
things. I mean, yes and no, I would say. I would say that those slasher movies are, yes, they are technically based in like real people. So like there's sort of a whodunit element to them. So it's like it could be like a mythical kind of like, oh, there's this guy that's gonna come out of the woods and kill you. Or it could just straight up be like there's a guy like Ghostface and Scream is like there's somebody in a ghost face that is killing us and we don't know who it is, like a Scooby-Doo kind of moment. But I would say almost all of them are based in some sort of reality, even though there's sort of an element of like, why can't we kill this thing or this person?
Mhm.
But there's a few, like Nightmare on Elm Street is like kind of supernatural because it's like he haunts their dreams and kills them, you know?
So Omega Red as Jason takes out Chamber, takes out Penance. Jubilee tries to warn Sync, but he's not taking anything seriously. He's very rational, and they're all still coming after him. So now M-Plate appears with a chainsaw. And this one took a minute because I don't have a lot of experience with M-Plate, and so I couldn't decide if the weird thing on his face was M-Plate or was the chainsaw guy, because I also have not seen the Chainsaw Massacre, so I was like, does he have a weird face covering something or other? I don't know. But anyway, it's M-Plate with the chainsaw, which is funny because M-Plate as a villain is, I think you would really like M-Plate because he's a very he's a horrific type of villain. His mutant power is to basically, I mean, they play it like he's eating other mutants, like he sort of like siphons off something. And so to have him be the choice for a slasher is funny to me because I would have thought, you know, vampire is an obvious choice, but he comes in with the chainsaw. And so once he shows up, we've got all four villains. However, when he shows up, there's another little guy in the doorway that doesn't get any play at all. But there's a little guy, like kind of like short, like a short little guy with a big smile and a knife, I'm going to say. And I don't know what the heck that is.
Yeah. I mean, it could be like Leprechaun. That's what it looks like. But I don't know why he's dressed in like that outfit.
Well, anyway. Okay, so now we've got all four of the villains, and they're all converging on Jubilee. And she's like, I gotta wake up. How do I wake up? I gotta wake myself up. She's scared, but not super scared. I think she has that in her head, that idea that if she dies in her dream, maybe she'll die in real life. But there's still a decent amount of, you know, separation because we know it's not real. Finally, I don't actually remember how she does it, but she manages to wake herself up and she opens her eyes, and the rest of the team is all leaning over her, like in real life, in a circle. And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that I've woken up and everything is fine. And for a second there, I thought that it was you guys just messing with me, but you would never do that because you're good friends and you would never try to scare me because of how we trust each other. And then it turns out that they are all hiding scary masks behind their backs because they were planning to do exactly that and scare her. And they all bolt. And she's like, you monsters. And it's just, I leaned over to my husband as I was reading this and I was like, this like last page feels so much like an Archie comic to me, the way it all like wrapped up, because it was just one page and it was just like, da 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 da, we're done.
That is true.
And that's it. That is the issue. It's just a fun little thing. I kind of thought it was boring, but I also thought that someone who liked horror movies might enjoy it. So, what did you think, Sally?
I thought it was really fun.
I knew it.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely fast and it's definitely like gimmicky in a way, but like I enjoy like seeing how, and granted, I don't know anything about like the villains or anything. I feel like anytime I'm on previously on X-Men, I learned something about X-Men. Um,
Well, now you know you need to look up M plates.
Yeah, but I just think it's fun to see, like, what they utilize from the horror genre and how they utilize it. I will say, looking back at these images, I think that you should feel good about your confusion between Halloween and Friday the 13th, because I think the way it's utilized here is confusing because he looks like Michael Myers. He looks like he's wearing, like, a human mask, but they call it
Mhm.
explicitly a goalie mask, which would be like the hockey
Interesting.
mask that
Okay.
Jason wears. So I think it's a little
So I'm not a total
you're not
failure.
a total failure. Yeah.
That's good.
But I think yeah, I just think it's fun to see how they utilize the horror stuff and I thought it was fun. But it is extremely short and extremely like yeah, like you said, just sort of like boop 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 doop. It's over.
Yeah. Do you feel good about the representation of these things? Like, is there anything that you would have put in here that they didn't? Or, like, how do you feel about that?
You know, not necessarily, although I always feel like with these things that I want them to keep going.
Yeah.
I think it's cool that they used a fairly broad spectrum. So, like, Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th are pretty similar in their execution, but the other two are like good outliers. And so I feel like they used a spectrum of like the quote unquote slasher genre, which I appreciate.
Hmm.
But I mean, yeah, I just want them to keep going. So they do have a little Scream reference at the end too, which is cute, but.
Oh, they do. They do. I didn't notice
Well,
that.
just after they wake her up, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, like I'm so glad that it was a dream." And she's like, "Why do you all look guilty?" And they're holding behind them like a scream mask.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is cute because they're friends.
Yeah.
And they're gonna betray
Yeah.
each other.
They're going to maybe murder her.
Yeah, yeah. See? You never know. You never know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm glad that you enjoyed it. I didn't hate it. It was so fast, and there's very little actual like mutanty X-Men stuff to like grab onto. So I feel like if I were reading the run and I got to this, it would be a fun little interlude and whatever. But just as a standalone, just picking it up, it was like, okay,
Right.
whatever, I guess. But
Mm.
nice to have leading up to Halloween. So
Yeah.
now we've talked about slashers, we've done monsters, we've done aliens.
Oh, yes.
What are we missing? What genre is there? Ghosts?
Yeah, we haven't done an explicit ghost one. You could always like mix in some body horror.
No, I draw the line at body horror. Oh, I hate body horror.
Mhm.
I think my thing, well, one of my things with horror is I don't like when it's based in reality, that's when I don't really like it. I mean, I like psychological stuff. I like mysteries. So in that way, I feel like, real life stuff works. But once it gets violent
Mm,
with like a slasher or with body horror or something, I'm out. But then I
yep.
also like ghosty stuff and stuff because like I know that you ascribe to the concept of ghosts, but I don't. And so when I watch something with ghosts, I'm like, this is fine because ghosts do not exist, so I don't need to worry about this. So as long as I don't have to worry about something actually coming after me in real life, like a slasher guy in a mask, then I'm good.
Sure, sure. Whatever makes you sleep at night.
You're just like counting the ghosts in my 18th century house.
Yeah, and yours might actually, be haunted.
Yeah, who
I
knows?
sit nice and comfy in my house, I know is not haunted, but
How do you know it's not haunted? How do you know it's not haunted?
because I can feel that it's not haunted.
Oh, I see. You know because you know.
Yeah. Well, and I have had outside sources. I've told this story. I may have not told this story to you, but like, so my wife and I were renting a house in the town over, and we always felt it was haunted. And she doesn't believe in ghosts either. But like, we always were like, yeah, but there's this weird feeling in this one room, and it's not like an evil
There was
feeling.
something about that
Yeah,
house.
it's not bad necessarily, but it just feels like sort of somebody's watching you or like something's in this corner, especially like in this one, like in the dining room. It really felt
Oh,
like
in
that.
this
Yeah.
corner. Ugh.
And like our dog would always like gravitate towards looking at that corner and would sort of
Stop
sometimes
it.
like sit and stare at that corner. So it's like kind of freaky, right? But like it never really scared us because it didn't feel evil or like menacing in any way.
You've been to my house. Do you feel vibes in my house? I feel good about my house.
No, I actually do feel good about your house. I actually have not felt any vibes there. I just say that because of that creepy story you told me about your son talking to some child in the basement.
Oh, I forgot about that. Was that this house? Oh
Yeah.
no.
I
Oh
don't
no,
bring
I
it up
forgot
often
about that.
because it's genuinely terrifying, but
Oh, and we found there was a wooden angel down there in that basement with like nails in its head because I guess they put I imagine that they wove Christmas lights around these nails to make it look like a halo, but like when it's just sitting in the back of my basement, like roughly painted wood with nails in its head, and we've got a few things, I guess.
yeah, I don't know. It sounds like a real Hellraiser
And
situation.
you can't get rid of something like that. That feels worse.
Yeah, it probably would be. You're right.
All right, anyway. Maybe next time we'll talk about ghosts. I'll see what I can find in our
Yeah,
in our
there you go.
issues. All right. Well, thank you very much, Queen of Halloween, Sally Jacoby Murphy, for bringing your expertise to our podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for teaching me more about the X-Men.
Oh, that is my role in life, baby.
I love it.
Thank you to Prophetic Music for our theme song. Previously on X-Men is brought to you by the Radio Meanwhile Network. Other shows on the network include This Endorian Life, 90s Music Got Like, and 902 and Here We Go. And I think a bunch of those, by the way, have Halloween episodes, so go check them out. Follow us on Facebook and be sure to follow the network on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads for info on all of our shows. Please rate, subscribe, and share this show wherever you get your podcasts, and happy Halloween!